Welcome back, everyone, to the Word Traction Podcast Network. This is, of course, Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. That is in the title of today's podcast is The Other Garden, because the Garden is the Boston Garden. That is the home of my 18-time world champion Boston Celtics. But this won't be about the Celtics. Well, it may be a little bit, but they are not featured prominently in tonight's introduction to Game 3, because, of course, that is the New York Knickerbockers facing the San Antonio Spurs. Two wonderful franchises. They are when it's New York, it's always a bigger deal. It's the city. They haven't been champions since 73. And it's interesting because the Mayor Mamdani, our hopefully all of our favorite big city mayor in the world, Zoran Mamdani, who is off to a flying start, much like the Knicks. It was funny, right? When he when he took his oath of office, he gave Jalen Brunson a shout out, the star of the Knicks, and then they promptly went off and lost 7, 8 games and some number of games. And of course, it's New York media. It's there's the New York Times, which is the more august professional paper, one of the greatest newspapers in the world. And then there's the New York Post, which is that's more of a Rupert Murdoch jam. So it's a little bit more lighter on the facts and more into the glitz and sizzle. But it's a big city. There used to be the one of my best friend's fathers wrote for the Daily News, and that sounds like Jimmy Olsen. That's going back a little bit. Anyway, so tonight it will be Game 3. It will be a cultural event, as we talked about in prior episodes. The ticket prices, with World Cup starting in about a week, there is going to be a lot of people will be making a lot of money selling and reselling tickets. FIFA will be making an enormous amount. The NBA will, of course, make a lot of money. The owner of the New York Knicks, if you said, "Hey, quick, here we are at the other garden, Madison Square Garden. Who are the two biggest dicks that are in attendance in this very building tonight?" It reasonably, you could argue that it's your president and James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, who is a fucking reprehensible human being. So much so that Mr. Dolan has been known to install listening devices and cameras in places that you wouldn't ordinarily expect them to be, because he's a paranoid motherfucker. And he's always afraid. He's kind of like he's got a Putin thing going on, although he's not that smart. He's very rich. Jim Dolan, very rich. You own an NBA franchise in the most important city on the planet. You got a few bucks. So he's a billionaire. Of course he is. So we'll give him, but we don't like billionaires now, do we? We don't hold them in such high regard, because such people as the tech bros have kind of fucked that up for us. Elon Musk has kind of fucked that up for us. So is this the game that you've been waiting for? I don't know. I don't ordinarily do sports themed content, but I saw this hat sitting in a closet somewhere, and I thought about Donald J. Trump deciding to go to Game 3 at Madison Square Garden. He's Donnie from Queens. He's a New York kid, not like a hard Scrabble New York story. He grew up a very fucking rich child, spoiled and rich. And if you think back to 73, the Knicks, they were on a good run in the 70s. If I have my facts correct, they won the championship on uh, Clyde Frazier, MVP both times, but they won in 70, missed out in 71, came back and lost to the Lakers in 72, and then won in 73. So that was a very good run for the Knicks. And then they weren't back to the finals again until 99. Now, Zoran Mamdani, of course, was not born when the Knicks won their last title. He was not even a glimmer in his parents' eye at that point. He was when they made it back to the finals. Mamdani was 7 or 8, so he's a diehard Knicks fan and an Arsenal fan, as you've probably heard, and he's going to be running a city that's going to have a lot of buzz because of World Cup. And New York, you don't have to manufacture buzz in New York; it's always there. And there's rich people squawking about billionaire taxes on their second homes and all of those silly freaking people. So it's New York. What do you expect? That's Ken Griffin, right? Yeah, Citadel was always pissing and moaning about. Well, they put that tax on me. We're gonna. Ken already moved his operation to Florida, so he's a Chicago guy. He's not a New York guy, so he can get on his fucking horse and keep going. And a lot of rich people will make a lot of rich people noises about paying extra taxes on their secondary, the pied à terre tax, and they will squawk. But if you have a beautiful 20 odd $1 million penthouse in a nice building in New York, there's always somebody else that's ready to buy it. There are plenty of hedge fund guys in New York that'll buy it, or there are people sitting in Paris that'll buy it, or there are wastrels all over UAE and KSA that will come over and do it with cash. They'll come with a harem, a bag full of money, and a few bags of blow, and just make a weekend out of it. So yeah, so here we are. We're up 2-0. I'm saying we're because my Celtics didn't quite make it that far this year, and that's fine. That's fine. We are spoiled in Boston. Did I mention the winningest NBA franchise? Yeah, they are 18 titles. So you can't get too salty about missing out once in a while. And as I've bragged before, and it is bragging, like I'm not being humble about this, that Boston is the greatest sports town in the country because we had our Tom Brady era with the Patriots, not in Boston but in Massachusetts, and the Bruins are fantastic. Every year they show up and play and they punch a few people in the mouth and then they move on. The Red Sox, that's the hat that I'm usually wearing, and they're a great baseball team. Not so great this year, but they fired everybody and they're rebuilding. So it's Fenway Park. It's the home of Carl Yastrzemski, Ted Williams, and Big Poppy with perhaps the greatest on-field quote in Red Sox history, if you'll remember, after the bombings at the Boston Marathon, when Big Poppy went out there and said, you know, "This is our fucking city." If you didn't see that, it's on YouTube. It's great. It is for real Boston fans. If you want to get a Boston fan like choked up, then you play Big Poppy saying nobody's going to dictate, however he said it. Nobody's going to dictate to us what we feel, or this is our fucking city. And it is. It's Boston. Boston's a small town. But how did I get to Boston? I traveled north from New York City. Tonight we're playing in Manhattan. Tonight we're playing at the other garden, Madison Square Garden. Tonight, I'm going to, because they're an Eastern Conference team, and I'm more connected to the Knicks than I would be to the Spurs. The Spurs are great. They have the they have the fifth most titles in NBA history, and that's thanks in a large part to Tim Duncan, one of the most magnificent professional athletes ever, ever. Classy, clear, brilliant, soft spoken, a leader by example. Tim Duncan, if you take one man that you would like to set as the role model for young players in the league, excuse me, people will argue with, I grew up with a lot of great players, and you could also argue that, oh, I'm going to go back down this route, so I'm not going to do that. For the two teams tonight, the San Antonio Spurs, Tim Duncan, great run, but when you look at the top five teams, and I'm going off memory here, so forgive me, uh, it's uh, it's the Celtics and the Lakers way out in front. If you get a salty Lakers fan, then they'll get in a fight with me about, yeah, well, if you count all the games that the Lakers were in Minnesota and you give them a boost for altitude, then actually the team with the most wins is the Lakers. So fuck you and all of you. Go back out west. Go out there. Go back to Los Angeles. It's our title. It's our crown. But the Knicks not on that list. San Antonio is number five, and in between is, of course, Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, and some guy named Michael Jordan, who you might have heard of. Exceptional talents, but we are 18, 17, and then no other team has double digits in wins. Is that right? It's approximately right. I think I think that the Bulls, for instance, Michael Jordan's Bulls, have 7 or 8, right? So it's they're in the single digits, and the Celtics are just way, way out in front. So let's not bury the lead. Let's bring this back to the politics part of what I normally talk about when I'm not bloviating about sports. One Donald J. Trump is scheduled to be in the building tonight at the other Garden, Madison Square Garden. It's a fucking horrible choice, not just because it's Trump, and it's hard to separate that part out, that he's a reviled figure. But what he does is he fucks up the experience for everybody else. A lot of people paid a lot of money for tickets before Trump was announced to be attending the game, right? If you paid 10 grand times two for okay tickets weeks ago, just on the rare, whenever when it was announced that they were going to be in the finals, and you were going to have to deal with all of that extra noise, security, lines, waiting, congestion, bullshit. They closed down the um, the outdoor the game, the viewing party that was on the street. They closed that down for security reasons, and they moved it to. They're doing a big one in Bryant Park, which, if you're in the city, it's a lovely little park, and used to be where you could buy some non-cheesy comestibles or other recreational things way back in the day. But it's the city. It's wonderful. It's going to be great. It's whoever wins, it's going to be great. It is not a. There's still a game four, no matter what happens tonight. So that ordinarily in the final schedule, that will be Wednesday or Thursday at the latest. I haven't looked at the schedule because I'm gonna watch this game as long as it keeps my attention. It's coming on in about I think about a half an hour, or at least the pregame is. So I should probably get into STFU mode and get on with it. But I just wanted to frame the perspective. I was looking at your President Donald J. Trump, a New York kid, with the overlaid with the New York Knicks. So in '73, when they won their last championship, where was Donald J. Trump? We already know that Zoran Mamdani, the two most consequential men in the bill, one delightful, one less so. Trump was what did he accomplish by 1973? Right? He had, I guess, he graduated from UPenn, Wharton, which is, he did undergraduate Penn, and they stick the Wharton tag on that. Whatever. I'm not going to get silly about that. And he went to work for his father in the building business, the real estate business. And he was by that point, I mean, his dad was born around the turn of the last century, I think, and he was working for his dad. And by that point, he was the head of the company. His dad was still working some, and right around that time, it's funny that we're celebrating a game that is dominated by African American men or men of African descent, some with American nowhere in their name, um, or CV. Yeah, that Donald J. Trump and his father then were being sued in federal court for discrimination against tenants in the homes that they built. They weren't selling, not tenants, excuse me, maybe tenants too, but in the homes they were selling and in the apartments they were renting, they were discriminating against African Americans as a matter of practice. And there was a consent order, and they didn't have to admit fault, and there wasn't, a huge verdict thing, not a huge fine. They had good lawyering, and yeah. But that was kind of the begin. That's how Trump learned from his father, who was affiliated with he was certainly in attendance at Klan events in New York. Trump's father, not Trump himself, but Trump's father, and so that's kind of the what shaped the man, and we juxtapose that against a very DEI friendly, diverse uh, group of talented men who are going to show their best on the floor tonight. And but just having him there, it's silly, And then it was a long wait, right, until '99 when they got back to the finals. And I'm misremembering, not remembering who they were playing against, who beat them in '99. Forget it. But they were back there, and Mayor Zoran Mamdani was 8. What was Donald Trump doing around then? He was at that point, what was on his CV at that point? He was, so he was what, 80, 70, 55, something like that. He had 5 or 6 business bankruptcies, not never filed, as far as I know, Trump never filed personal bankruptcy, but he had used Chapter 11 like it was a card in his wallet, like a credit card in his wallet for the casino business in Atlantic City, and had divorced Ivana, the mother of most of his children, and had already divorced Marla Maples by then too. So he had, let's call it, let's because I think he had a BK later in life. So let's say he had 4 bankruptcies, he had 2 divorces, and he had 5 military deferments, some combination of educational deferments and the infamous bone spurs, right? So that was his CV. Of course, he was also, as I distinguished before in an earlier podcast, I say at that point he was rich, that he wasn't wealthy because he got a fair amount of money from his father. His father Fred, who was a planner, and they had he had the brother that had the challenges with I think it was Fred Jr. who had the challenges with alcohol that took him very at a very young age and kind of fucked up his life and caused Trump to not be a drinker or a drug user, which is admirable. But of all the rest of the kids, the father at that point uh, by that point, I think the father passed on somewhere in that range, and he had, at least $1 million trust fund for each of his children. So he was a planner. And when Fred passed away, I think his estimated net worth at that point was, $700,000 in the equivalent value would be something pretty spectacular. But Donald took a fair amount of that, and they left him in charge of it, and he gave some to his siblings, but then he blew a lot of it too, and he had a lot of ups and downs. And being a gambler, and not just in the Atlantic City casino sense, but just that kind of guy. Yeah. So we will. Let's see. So Mamdani, Trump, Madison Square Garden isn't as good as the Boston Garden. The hat, the number of championships, and we're going to celebrate Jalen Brunson because he has the riz, he has the swagger, and I hope that he and Mayor Mondani will be the kings of New York in a couple more games. When you're up 2-0 in a best of 7 series, I don't have the numbers in at hand, but you got a pretty good chance of winning the championship. I don't want to jinx them. They still got work to do, but they won, and notably, they won 2 games on their opponent's home court. So now they have a pretty good home court advantage. And so we can all enjoy hopefully a 7-game series, hopefully a lot of fun, hopefully no injuries, very important. And what I put in my an earlier post today was those of you, the uninitiated, the Bronx cheer is when people do a combination of either boo or some you know some noise that's supposed to be it's not a sound of an endearment. It's a scorn. And so I would imagine that when Trump is announced at the Madison Square Garden, that perhaps, I mean, there are a lot of rich fucks that are going to be at the game, and they may be some of the bootlickers like the ones that were laying naked on Trump's front lawn at 1600 Penn. So they could love him up a little bit. But and if you think about what is the what is the demographic mix of people that can afford to drop an average of 20 grand a ticket? Now they're season ticket holders, sure. And I know that Mayor Mamdani tried to do his best to make a certain number of tickets available at the World Cup. I imagine he couldn't do too much with the Knicks because it's fucking Dolan. But yeah, let's just hope for safe. Nobody gets hurt on the court or off the court. No, silly acts of violence or terrorism. None of that stuff. And that all the players are safe after the game, and we get a great series. I hope, of course, next year, whoever the opponent is, that I'm talking to you about the Celtics instead. But I'm not going to be a bad sport. because we are winners, not like Donald Trump likes to say, losers. Right? If we saw everybody that saw him on with Kristen Welker this past weekend from Wisconsin, when she was interviewing and fact checking him a little bit on the election denier stuff. And he got very huffy and very red. And you could tell that he was about to turn 80 because it looked like it. And he lost his shit, blew his top, and was very unprofessional. He's a rude man. Wasn't always that bad. He was never a classy guy, right? But he's turned into a real rude motherfucker to women, which is, I don't, I'm not doing gender qualification, anti misogyny, blah, blah, blah. But when you're a young man, your mother tells you, maybe with the rolling pin in her hand, that you never disrespect a woman. Shouldn't do it. You shouldn't disrespect anybody, but particularly a man with tremendous power and balance, behaving in that way, trying to intimidate reporters, demeaning them, talking about their looks, calling them piggy, doing all, no excuse. Never. Gamesmanship, whatever, fuck you. No. So, for those few of you in this feed that may be enjoying the entire game, please do so. Drink responsibly. Orange Gatorade right here. That's about as exciting as it gets on my diet plan for the victuals. Thank you, and we will catch you sometime tomorrow, which is in fact Tuesday, and we will celebrate something or other. We'll talk very little about basketball, I promise, until the Knicks are on again, and I might go on another little rant if I see or hear something silly about a particular VIP behaving like a dick in the crowd. I might bring it up. Yeah, but thank you. And Word Traction Podcast Network. We love you. We'll be eternally grateful for your subscription, your restacking, your sharing, your liking, and in fact, your sharing on another platform. And I've developed an interest, a profound and genuine interest in voter irregularities in the last few weeks, and I'm going to be posting a lot more about that and asking for you nice people to share that, because as we approach the midterm election, we're learning more and more about the way that the residual effect of the Vladimir Putin program that came online, excuse me, in earnest for the 2016 elections. They didn't go home. They winter in Sunny Isles Beach, Florida. They come back. Some of them, I don't know if any of them still live in Trump Tower, but the boys are around, and they're still working hard to prop up those that their boss, Vladimir Putin, thinks would be a better fit for Russia in the seat of power. So they want somebody they want to punch. So in any case, enough about Donald Trump, and say something nice about Mayor Zoran Mamdani. I hope his team wins. And thank you, and we will catch you tomorrow. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you.